I'm calling the Utility Advisory Board meeting of November 18th to order, and I'm asking Robin to please call the roll.
Okay, let's see. Member Wheeler,
Here.
Member Jacobson,
Barry, your
Here.
speaker's not on.
Mr. Jacobson is participating virtually, and he did submit his affidavit.
I am here.
Thank you. Member Miles,
Here.
Member Sperlingwood,
Here.
Member Rockwell,
Here.
Member Davis, absent. Member Crow is absent. Member Foltz.
Here.
And Chair Porter is absent.
Thank you, Robin. I am going to ask if there are any member comments for the adoption of the consent agenda. Hearing none, are there any public comments for adoption of the consent agenda?
No, sir, there are no public comments at this time.
All right, no public comments from Zoom. So I'll ask for a member motion to adopt the consent items, please.
Moved.
Second, please.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. We now have adoption of the agenda, and if any public comment is out there, the state of utility is part of the adoption of the agenda, and if you have comments on that, I'll be asking for public comments in a minute. Are there any member comments on the adoption of the agenda? Hearing none, are there any public comments on the adoption of the agenda?
No, sir, there are no public comments at this time.
Hearing no public comment from either here or on Zoom, I ask for a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt the agenda for November 18th, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. May I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a second. Thank you, Jason. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It passes. Thank you. Mr. Brown, state of utility, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the UAB, Tom Brown, Chief Operating Officer of GRU. I assume everybody can hear me virtually tonight?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Actually, we submitted 3 months worth of data for this meeting, starting back in August, September, and October as well. And of course, September ends our fiscal year, so that would be the summary of everything that basically happened in 2019, and we're into 2020. I would say that just in general, 2019 was a better year from a safety perspective. We ended up with 15 recordable injuries for the year, which isn't stellar, but when you look at the description of those injuries, there was really only one that I would describe as eye-catching, and that was back in February, where an employee got his hand caught between two conveyor belt rollers. And, that one could have been pretty bad, but it wasn't. So thank our stars on that. Beyond that, last week we were dealing with a tropical storm that threatened, Tropical Storm Ada. We were very fortunate that when it hit Cedar Keys, it kind of broke up and then stayed to the south of it. So it's my favorite tropical storm to date. And that is, it left us alone. We did have about 15 outages during the night. And I will say that GRU was stood up and ready to respond if it was more serious than it was, but fortunately left us alone. So I was real pleased with our team and the way they came together, and everybody was prepared to deal with a storm that never really hit us. So with that, I really don't have any other comments. If there's any other questions on the reports that came out, I'll be glad to address them. And I would also like to ask if there's any changes that you would like to see to what's typically put forth in the state of the utility. Please let me know, and we'll be glad to have staff modify the reports to make it more informative. It's really for you to get an idea on what's been transpiring at the utility from an operational point of view. I think it's also maybe worth mentioning that over the next 9 months, our energy supply group, and particularly the maintenance and projects group, is going to be extremely busy between the solar initiative that was kicked off a month or so ago. We've just finished an outage up at Deer Haven Renewable. We've got outages pending at Deer Haven 2, and we'll be starting that gas conversion with phase 1 probably in December, possibly in January, given some recent developments. And hopefully that conversion will be finished next March. And really the big outage project that's on the books is for the change out of the turbine generator over at the Kelly facility. It's a big project. It's kicking off in January 1, and hopefully we'll have it back in operation for the summertime peak. But I can tell you that everybody is extremely busy on the energy supply side of the fence with those projects, getting geared up for that. So with that, I'll address any questions that might come forth.
Thank you, Tom. Any member comments on the operational reports? From Barry online? No. Okay. I do have one minor, and it's just a silly question perhaps, but also partially serious. I was shocked at the number of people who are running into the back of GRU trucks. Is there should we be putting bright flashing lights or on the safety reports? How do y'all address that?
Well, we did initiate a program several years ago, and you probably, if you noticed, a lot of our vehicles have additional fluorescent red and yellow striping on the rear. We were hoping that might prevent some rear end collisions, but typically what you'll see is that the driver coming up was either distracted, whether that's using a cell phone or other, and just hits us. I mean, we'll look at the descriptions of all those incidents. You don't like to see that many accidents. We had 20 last year. That's 20 too many. We did drive 2.2 million miles during the occurrence of those 20 instances, but for the majority of them were very minor. Some of them there was just no damage. It was just reported. But it's an area that we constantly try and get better at. But when you're sitting at a traffic light and somebody comes screaming up and slams into the vehicle, I'm not sure what you can do more than what it is.
Okay, I was just curious. That kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah.
Do you have a comment?
Yeah, so just one request. You mentioned requests for the report. There's a quarterly coal sourcing report that GRU submits to the City Commission, and it's only quarterly. But could that report be integrated into this operations report that comes to the UAB?
I am going to apologize with your mask on.
Oh, sorry.
I cannot understand
Let
exactly
me try
what
that
you're
again.
asking for. I caught half of it, but not the gist of it.
Is this better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. So there is a coal sourcing report that GRU provides to the City Commission quarterly. And I would just like to ask if that report could be integrated into the operational reports that the UAB receives.
A coal sourcing, where the coal's coming from?
Exactly.
I don't see why we couldn't do that. I will say that we have not purchased coal in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so that's good and useful information to see in the operations report if possible. And I mean, typically, I know it's issued quarterly, and so I actually go through the process every quarter of doing a records request for that information.
Okay.
And so I just thought, well, why couldn't it just be integrated into this operations update if possible?
We could make that happen.
Okay.
I will hope, my expectation going forward, once we do this conversion to gas up at Deer Haven, is that very little coal will be consumed annually.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. No further comments? Then let's move on to new business. Approval of a customer information system. I don't know which staff member is presenting this, but the ball is in your court.
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Shepard. He's our Chief Customer Officer. I think you folks have had a presentation or two by Mr. Shepard, but this is his baby. He's going to be the product owner of this system. So I'm going to turn it right over to the man.
Thanks, Ed. Good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Vice Chair and members. Bill Shepard, Chief Customer Officer, GRU. And so I'm going to talk about our customer care system and where we're at to date. And some of you have come on to the board since this project really started making some inroads in the earlier years. So some of it might be catch up for some of you, and then others will be, sort of where we're at right now. So with that, let me share my screen here. I think Robin gave me that. Oh, Robin, I need screen sharing. They don't want to look at my face the whole time.
Well, while you're doing that and trying to, they can all look at me and, maybe somebody can make fun of my hair or something like that that's been done in previous meetings. Not by anybody on the board or the commission.
Got it. She gave me access here, so.
You got access. Ready for liftoff here.
Okay, so you should all see my presentation. I'll just ask Mr. Vice Chair, do you see it?
We do. Yes.
Okay, great. That way 25 people don't feel like they have to answer me. All right, so a little history on the system. So our current customer care system, CCS, is what you'll hear me referring to it throughout the presentation. You'll also hear another term that's CIS, Customer Information System. I loosely use them in replace of each other, but one's a little bit newer version than the other. So sometimes I'll revert to one or the other, but please understand we're just talking about the billing system in general. So the current customer care system was installed in 2007. In 2014, we received preliminary approval to replace and upgrade both our financial management information system, FMIS, and our billing system or CCS system. And as part of the overall enterprise resource planning ERP strategy to just try to get all of our major systems on one platform so they're all talking to each other seamlessly. We upgraded that financial system in 2017. And then in 2018, the City Commission requested us to move forward with solicitation to get firm pricing for our billing system or the CCS. So where we left off with this body.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shepard, could you please make that full screen? I think it'll be easier for everyone to see.
What screen are you seeing? Hold on. Let me try to do it a little more.
We're seeing all your.
Oh, you're seeing my entire, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Coming across okay for me, Robin.
Yeah, I mean, it looks okay, but if he makes it full.
Oh, I see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me try to open it up a little bit.
There's a full screen option.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna let me do that.
Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bill, could you go into slideshow mode?
View and then slideshow.
But can't
I
we
will
all see
try,
it?
but I think that'll
Anybody having a
just
problem seeing it?
block my whole screen if I do that. Let me try.
I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead. That's fine.
That one's too small.
Yeah, it's too small.
Okay, let me go back.
Gotta leave well enough alone here.
Let's see. Oh, I hope I can go back. Let's see.
Yeah, go back.
I'm trying.
This is like an eye exam. Is this better or is that?
Better
Go
now?
back.
Okay. Are we back now?
We are.
Okay. That's where we started, right?
Yes.
I mean, as far as where we left off on the presentation piece. All right,
Yeah.
so where we left off, we last reported to this body in March of 2019 when we were letting you all know that we were just beginning the ITN process, the invitation to, the invitation to negotiate process. So that kicked off. We had some delays due to the complexity of an ITN process. So just to give you some insight on what that is, on an RFP, you know exactly what you want and exactly how you want it, and you put it out there and you get bids that are pretty much what you ask for. An ITN is a little bit different in that, folks, you give them a general understanding of what you want and they come back with a solution to make it happen. So that's why it's such a more complex process, takes a little bit more time, but at the end you get a better product that's more tailored to what your needs are. So that's the process we chose to go. And then, of course, we had that little thing called COVID that happened. So we're a little bit further down the timeline than we really wanted to be at this point. But given everything that's happened, I'm happy with the progress that we've made and where we're at currently. So our current timeline. So you see, we rolled out the ITN on March 26th. They came back and they were scored in June of 2019. We shortlisted those bids in November. Starting January through February, we started having vendor demonstrations, and this is the part where we really started to hit some complexities because we had to go virtual and all that kind of stuff. So we had the vendor finalist selection around March and April of 19. I don't know how that 19 got in there here. That should be April 20. The scope confirmation sessions were delayed because of COVID, and then we picked them back up in June. And really what those are is it's workshops with that vendor that was shortlisted to make sure that what they're coming forward with is going to meet all the expectations. So those are very detailed workshops with a lot of different individuals in the organization, from anywhere from our user group, the customer service area, the financial group was involved, the IT group was involved, network group was involved. So a lot of different folks were involved in that, and they did a really great job through the complexities with being virtual. In June through October, we started negotiations with that vendor as far as finalizing some of the minute details of the agreement. And here we are in November. We're looking to get UAB's backing on the project, and then tomorrow, actually, I go to the City Commission and do the same presentation, and hopefully we get their approval as well. So everything goes well. We anticipate a project kickoff in January 2021. If things go a little rougher, then maybe we'll get a February start, but we're hoping to get started in January. Okay, so our why are we doing this? So you'll see the highlights there. It really, we need to improve the customer experience that we have right now. We want a system that's cost effective, easy to support in the long run, and you'll hear some more of that in the later slides. It's going to become the system of record for all customer related interactions. It enables efficient business management. The system is intuitive. So right now the system that we have is not very intuitive. It's very cumbersome and clunky. And it provides a modern technological platform that can easily integrate with other solutions, such as AMI, automated metering infrastructure, our outage management system, and of course our financial system as well. And we limit the customizations and adopt best practices. So one of the things that you're going to hear also through the slide presentation is with our original implementation of our current billing system, we customized a lot of it. And really what that does is it ties your hands to make any kind of enhancements in the future because it's such a complex and expensive process. So we do not want to repeat that. So we're adopting best practices off-the-shelf type approach. So what will that get us? First of all, improved operational efficiencies. I'm not going to read all of them here, but some of the ones I've highlighted. Currently, our customer service reps, they use 4 or more applications just to handle a customer. And to give you an idea from a workflow standpoint, a turn on that should be fairly simple and straightforward is about a 20 to 30 minute process for our customers and our agents. And it's a mostly manual process. So a lot of those things is, going back and forth from screens to check on an ID or to enter this address or to find an address. The new system will have 1 or 2 interfaces, and a turn on will take more like 5 or 10 minutes. And then a lot of that workflow will be automated. Back to that point on intuitive, right now it takes us 6 weeks to train a CSR and about 6 months to become full effective on the floor. We're hoping to get that training down to 2 weeks for a new agent, with 2 months them becoming fully efficient on the floor. So that in itself would be a huge improvement in our current workflow. We have very little new or improved processes since we went live in 2007 because of that point that I made about the customization. The new system will always be on the newest version with the newest features. And we'll get into a little bit about that too when I explain to you what type of system that we're moving towards. The call center service level right now is greater than 5 minutes. Our goal, once we put the new system in place and really get to full stabilization of that system, we're looking to be at 30 to 120 seconds for that call center service level. And highly manual skip tracing and bad debt process. So a lot of times when customers come to turn on an account with us, they'll have a balance owed somewhere else. They were a customer 3 or 4 years ago or what have you. Right now, it's a very manual process. So our agents go through and they check the social security number and everything like that. Whereas with the new system, it's a much more streamlined process and it optimizes that bad debt process and allows us to not lose much bad debt. Able to meet customer expectations. So our customers' expectations are ever increasing. They don't compare us to other utilities. They compare us to other experiences they have, such as Google and any Facebook or Twitter or whatnot. So it's a really high bar that other companies with deeper pockets are setting. So we have to be able to meet those customers' expectations much better. So the old system, there's no flexibility to add new features because of it being too customized. The new system, off-the-shelf functionality and many features that we don't currently have. Budget billing doesn't work correctly in the old system, for example. Budget billing will be standard offering in the new system. We actually pulled the plug on budget billing because of some problems that we have with how it displays and the problems that we have when different adjustments are made to the account. So we no longer offer budget billing. The bill roundup request, just to give you an idea what that is, some of the city commissioners expressed some interest in being able to round up customers' bills. So it'll take that 20, 30 cents or whatever, it rounds up to the next dollar, and put that towards our project share, which is the program that helps low-income customers. It would have been a major effort because of that customization that I mentioned to you. Those kind of features in the new system would be easily worked into future upgrades. 30-day meter data intervals is what we have right now. We manually read our meters, as you well know. If we move forward with our AMI project, automated metering infrastructure, those data intervals go down to 15 minutes, and this system is able to accommodate that and work with that and display that information to the customers. Very little flexibility on different rate options for the old system. The new system, we'll have much more flexibility on different rate options, especially when you integrate the AMI. Integration's really key, especially for a system that's so critical and handles so many bills on a monthly basis. We want to be able to tie into all of our other enterprise systems that we have working throughout the utility. So right now we have a cumbersome integration with our financial piece. It's a monthly reconciliation. The GL structure and the company codes aren't in sync with that, so we have to have a bit of software that interprets both of those. With the new system, it'll be a nightly reconciliation with our finance, and our GL and structures and company codes will all be in sync with our current financial system. The current mobile work order system is out of support, and what that system does is allows us to go out and do a turn on, for example. It sends that service order to field services and lets them know to turn on a meter. This system has a new work order system that's obviously fully supported and able to work with the current system. This is very key. The old system would not have compatibility with AMI functionality, so it would not be able to accommodate those features that an AMI system will get you, as far as the customers being able to see their interval data and being able to be sent a text that says, hey, you realize you're hitting this point in your usage. You might want to tailor back on some of your usages. So with the new system, it's fully compatible with AMI functionality. And another thing that AMI would get us is prepay. A lot of customers have expressed some interest in being able to just put money in as they use their electricity. And an AMI system with a new billing system would allow that prepay to happen and integrate very well. Any future applications would have integration challenges or barriers if we stick with the old system, whereas the new system, all those future applications would be more easily integrated. And if I'm talking too fast or rambling, please feel free to ask questions. Reduce system risk. The old system, again, here's that word again, customize. So since we put it in 07, we haven't had any functional upgrades, security patches, or fixes. The new system is off the shelf, no customization, and it's more configurable to what our needs are. SAP stopped supporting our system back in 2013. The new system, which will be software as a service, and again, I'll explain a little bit more about that in a later slide. It will always ensure the most up-to-date version, enhancements, and security patches and fixes are applied. We'll never be more than one version behind. Because of the backlog of fixes and enhancements that we had with the old system, our IT group was really just in that reactive mode. They had enough work just trying to fix some of the issues that would come up that would be critical, that we weren't able to really do any enhancements or anything. So with the new system, again, off the shelf, best of industry standard functionality will be implemented, and we'll have a much better product in the end of it. So some of the expectations we set with the City Commission during this whole timeline. Back in 2016, we had a placeholder for capital expenses for the customer care system and another system, EAM, which is Energy Asset Management. It's $20 million is what we set the placeholder at in 2016. In 2018, we refined that estimate to about 23 million CapEx. What we got from the City Commission at that point is they wanted something somewhere between 0 and 23 million. So that was the challenge that they gave us as far as putting a system in place that would be within that range. In 2019, working with one of our consultants, AAC, we refined that further to about 13 to 18 million CapEx by opening up beyond SAP. So this is the first time we really looked beyond an SAP solution and included cloud offerings and when we issued that invitation to negotiate. So traditional versus software as a service. traditionally speaking, and even back in those the 2016 and 2018 timeframe when we had those estimates, those were based on an on-site system that was built on site and maintained on site. Most of the focus was on upfront implementation costs and stabilization. Future system upgrades, patches, and fixes were all assumed, but they were not factored into those costs. That puts the onus on us to support and fix and keep it current. Hardware upgrades and replacements, again, are assumed but not factored into the costs. So that's sort of that traditional on-premise approach. What a lot of utilities are moving towards these days is software as a service. So you're paying for a service and you're not paying for having hardware on site and maintaining it on site. So it's hosted by another provider. Generally, it's in the cloud and their hardware. And the focus is more on the total cost of ownership over a contractual period, in this case, 10 years. So instead of just being focused and intent on the implementation cost, the cost structure is built around a total cost of ownership. So future upgrades, patches, and fixes are already included and factored into that cost. And the onus is on the provider to support, fix, and keep it current through the managed services and service level agreements. The provider is also responsible for hardware upgrades and replacements. So again, it's a total cost of ownership model, and it's definitely start to finish a better, more robust offering of a product for us. So negotiated implementation costs after the workshops, the implementation CapEx is about $13.5 million, with the O&M piece coming in at about just under $1 million. So our total implementation cost is $14.3 million. Remember that target we were given is somewhere between 0 and 23 million. So keep that in mind. The next slide.
Mr.
Cost
Shepherd,
versus-
if you could
Yes.
just back up there for a minute, please. The previous slide. Implementation, CapEx, and O&M. So operations and maintenance would be, how do you distinguish those two?
So the CapEx, there's certain aspects of the project that you can capitalize, and it's a different way to get money and a different impact to our customers. So with this type of project, there's a certain amount of pieces and parts that can be capitalized, and then there's a certain amount that cannot be capitalized that's considered O&M. So it's taken straight out of the O&M. I do have Claudia is on the call, I believe, and also Ed, if they want to get into a little bit more detail. It's certainly not my expertise, but it's just a different way of getting money for the project.
Thank you.
That answer your question?
Yes, I was just, it's how
Yeah.
you allocate the funds, whether they're 1-year funds or whether they're multiple-year funds.
Yeah, Mr. Wheeler, I'd add that, you always can look at this in extremes, right? If all of this had to be expensed, there would be $14 million, cost that would be borne by the customers in the particular year. But because this has the aspects of a long-lived asset, we can write it out, the implementation costs out over that period of the contract. And in that regard, it mitigates the impact to the customers. So what this is really showing is that most of that $14 million will be allocated out over the 10 years of the contract and not have as big an impact to the customers, upfront and, create, a burden, if you will. So that's kind of the point of that. And it's also the way we looked at the original capital expenditures and implementation costs on all the other projects. So, I've always talked to Bill about doing an apples to apples comparison. So this 14 million really compares right directly to that 0 to $23 million. The other costs that he'll go on to talk about are the additive costs that in certain regards weren't taken into account in past evaluations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. All right, so those are the implementation costs, and now we'll get into that total cost of ownership piece that I was referring to when you're looking at a software as a service type offering. So the total cost of ownership over the 10 years, and this does include that implementation piece, is just over $34.5 million over that 10 years. The total cost of avoidance and benefits through that 10 years. So of course, when we put this system in, we expect to get some cost benefits and cost savings out of there, is just over $14 million. So the net cost of the solution, the entire solution over that 10 years is $20,608,000. So again, just referring back to that target we were given, is there something between 0 and 23? So not only did we come in way below that for what it's referring to, which was the implementation cost of $14.3 million, but we're also being able to provide the total cost of the solution for the entire 10 years under that price point too. So we're at $20.6 million. So we're really happy with the pricing that came in, and we feel we have a good story to tell and a good product to get rolling on. So where do we stand right now? We had preliminary budget approval back in 2016 for the $20 million. We have a project consultant on board. I mentioned earlier, AAC. They helped us put together our requirements and also helped us with the ITN process. The project team, the internal project team, has been selected. Requirements have been defined, and the vendor has been selected, which is Vertex One. And we're ready for final licensing and managed services negotiations there. And we're pretty close to, be idling at the starting line. So we're hoping to get a January 21st start. And if we meet that start date of January or start month of January 21, it still gets us a mid to late 2022 finish, which can't come early enough. But that's what we're looking at for a time frame of completion. So what we're asking, our recommendation is to authorize the GM or his designee to execute a software as a service agreement with Vertex One for a term of 10 years, and also to authorize him to execute a new order form with SAP. One thing I did not mention was we're still going to get an SAP solution, which is a top tier offering, but it being offered as the software as a solution. Software as a service option with Vertex One. That's how we're able to get it at such a more reasonable cost. So with that is the end of my presentations, and I'll be happy to take any questions. I have some of my folks that have been very close to the project online as well too. If I can't answer a question, I'm sure one of them can.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. What I'm going to do is give the members here in the room their opportunity to speak first. Then I'm going to ask Barry if he would have any questions, and then I'm going to ask you to address some of Fletcher Crow's comments that he sent to you, in which you responded by email. So let's start with the in the room first. Ms. Miles, do you want to go first, or?
I do not. I understand completely the presentation. It's a continuation. I just wanted to ask if we were even considering bringing back budget billing. I stay trying to find solutions for the community, and how we can get some lower rate pressure. Is that something we're going to bring back once we get this system up and running?
Absolutely, yes. And actually, even the more better offering would be levelized billing. So budget billing sort of sets an amount, and it has to be trued up every year. So sometimes that true up is an increased amount of dollars owed at the end of the year. Sometimes it's less amount of dollars, and we're able to adjust it down. With levelized billing, it just looks at a 12-month average. So every month it's like a 12-month average that you're charged, which is it evens out those peaks and valleys without having to have that annual true up, if that makes sense.
And then I heard Ed when he was talking about the $14,303,359. and you said it was less impact to the community and no burden up front. As far as how the customers are gonna be billed for it. And so I wanted to know, would they assume any type of upward pressure? And if it's not happening up front, when can they expect to have to, pay for this system?
I
That
saw
make
you
sense?
up there, Ed. Do you wanna?
Yeah,
Take that.
I mean, obviously, any expenditures that we make can and do have some upward rate pressure, but you can only view, you know, the capital expenditures as well as O&M expenses in the context of the budget process. You know, we take care every year to try to mitigate increases and those types of things. And so this would be one of those types of items. It also is a pathway to get to AMI, where we see that there literally could be some savings as a result of AMI in terms of enhanced meter capability, the ability to not have to roll trucks on, you know, turn-ons and turn-offs, those types of things. So when you combine the two aspects of the CCS system and AMI, you know, when we get to the final analysis, we're hoping that, you know, that there may be some upward rate pressure, but we don't know that it will increase rates at this point.
I'm sorry, you said there may be some upward rate pressure, but you're not sure what? I didn't catch that last part.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're not, we don't have the final numbers to understand whether there will be increased rates as a result of that.
Okay.
I mean, you have to put this into the projections and into the annual levels of expenditures and look at what your revenue requirements are, combined with what other kind of savings you do ultimately realize as a result of having the enhanced services like with AMI.
All right, because I totally see the benefits, but I'm always looking at ways to make sure, are we looking for ways that we can implement this without any rate pressure? Is that a thing? Without any upward rate pressure to the customers, where it's something that we assume the cost for, and when I say we, I mean GRU and the city, without it having to be extra?
We look, and you can, and Bill can correct me if I'm wrong, but we beat him up pretty well, as well as the IT group, to make sure one of these slides he shows you know, the benefits, and part of those benefits is being able to operate in the future with a lower staffing level because we're going to be more productive. Those things that we're paying for now that we wouldn't have to pay for in the future. Right now, it's being reflected as there'll be additional costs, and we'll be writing the, you know, we'll be incurring those O&M expenses. Even at a net level, it's additional. But we're also looking to, you know, what improvements will result from this, from AMI, from reducing truck rolls, from maybe not having as many meter readers, those types of things. So yes, I mean, we totally focus on keeping our costs as low as possible. And then we look at what the revenue requirements are for those costs that are necessary to operate the system. So I'd love to be able to tell you that there's no rate impact. I really, really would. And I would, you know, but we have to go through the process of developing each budget and determining what those rate impacts will be.
Okay.
And, you know, I'll remember this meeting. So before the next budget discussion, I'll make sure I beat up on Bill a little bit more to make sure that he's really, really thinking about this. Right, Bill?
All right, so don't be beating up on Bill. He's a champion for our customers. Don't be beating up on Bill. but thank you. I recognize that there will be, but hopefully with the savings from implementing the system itself, maybe we'll be able to help mitigate some of that rate pressure for the customers in the public. I have nothing else.
You have another question? Go ahead. Are you done? Okay, thank you. Member Rockwell.
I do have a few questions, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm going to be kind of playing devil's advocate here. These numbers are really big and what I'm getting out of this is that we're essentially going to be leasing software from somebody, buying a license to use their software remotely. So first, I'd just like to clarify a couple of these terms here for myself and anybody listening. The negotiated implementation cost slide. There's a implementation capital expenditure, an implementation operation and maintenance cost, and then an implementation cost. I wonder if somebody could just provide a little more clarity on what each of those bullet points are exactly, what they mean, and are these essentially pass-throughs? I mean, because again, if it's a cloud-based software, the software company is doing all the operation and maintenance. So are they just passing? Is that a pass-through cost to GRU?
So this is just the implementation piece. So this is getting this software to where it can do the job we need it to do.
They're
So
actually going to
we
be
did
coding.
that. Say yes. This is the
Okay.
coding and getting that to integrate with how GRU does business and whatnot. So this covers a 2-year period.
Okay.
And then the implementation cost, that 14 million is additive of the other two. So that's the total of the other two.
I see. Okay. And then so with the cost benefit, what exactly are the cost avoidance? What is that? What costs are we avoiding?
So some of those things are right now the services that we have in like our mobile data management system that sends a work order out to somebody to turn on a meter or whatnot. That's very costly for us to maintain every year. It's about $60,000. We have to support our current hardware server stacks right now. And every 3 years, it's about a $600,000 price tag. So that's an avoidance. CRM enhancements are one of the things that we would be looking at doing if we could not move forward with a new billing project because of the fact that we've been on this platform since 2007. There's a lot of things that we've passed up over the last 5 or 6 years in anticipation of getting started with a new system. So we would have to undertake some of those things just to make that experience, one, for the agents a little bit more easy and efficient, and as also to give a little bit better experience to our customers. So those things are about 1.3 million in the second year of our 10-year cycle of this project, and about looking at the spreadsheet, that's part of your backup. 1.4 million that is in year 7 from this point to make another enhancement to our current software. Some other things that are part of that is OT reductions, so overtime reductions in the staff. That since there's going to be a lot of automated work process, that's going to avoid about $60,000 a year. And then workforce optimization, as Ed alluded to, what we anticipate getting once we have stabilization of the system is being able to redirect some of our resources and let some departments attrition out for positions. So if we needed 5 billing agents, for example, to handle all the errors or edits that come down from our current system, by the time we're stabilized with this system, we might be able to do that with 1 less or 2 less. So those are some of the savings from that category. E-bill adoption's another big ticket. We feel that with the system being much more intuitive for customers and providing a better experience, we're hoping to get a lot more customers on our e-bill platform, and that'll be about a $200,000 a year savings. So all those together are those benefits and cost avoidance piece that we're balancing against the cost of the project.
Thank you. So with all that in mind, I guess my last question is, what exactly are we getting for the $16 million? Is it literally just the software? Is there any hardware that comes with the package for the customer service reps to access the software through, or is that going to be, if there is any new hardware, is that going to be a separate expense?
Yeah, no, all the hardware is borne by that. It's really a turnkey service. They're responsible for all the server hardware that's necessary and all the upgrades that's necessary. They're going to be the people we call if we have a problem or if we need an enhancement. But as far as the interface with our agents, it's really just a computer terminal that we already have. So, but none of the big ticket networking item and computer items are going to be GRU's responsibility. It'll all be built into that price. So it's very much a turnkey service for us.
Including, are you gonna, like right now, the customer service people have their computers with their monitors and everything that they're using, and are they gonna be able to continue using that hardware or?
Yes.
Or,
yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yep.
I mean, wow, this breaks down to 1.6 million a year for cloud-based software, and I understand the software is doing a lot, but you know, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it's. I thought Civil 3D was expensive.
Well, it's a big item. I mean, it's certainly a critical piece of our business. I mean, we bill out almost 1.3 million bills a year, and that brings in our $450 million a year too. So it's very much a critical piece of our business.
And look, I'll jump in here too and say that, I mean, I had the same reaction as you did throughout this whole process. Whenever we're talking about FMIS or CCS and, you know, the actual software, the intellectual property, if you will, that runs these systems, they don't come cheap. And this was all done through ITNs and, you know, where we actually it was competitively bid. And you wish you could buy Quicken books, you know, off the shelf and install it, right? But when you start getting into the magnitude of the security levels that are required to maintain these types of systems, you know, the ability to have, you know, incredible amounts of licensees that have access to the systems, it's kind of the cost of doing business in this environment. And, you know, it's one that we've, quite frankly, put off for a while because of all the other issues, you know, that we had to confront with the utility. We had to make sure FMIS was, you know, absolutely stable, put that in place, make sure we did it correctly. And, you know, we proceeded with this software as a service, which I think is absolutely the right way to go because, quite frankly, GRU and other utilities have a history of buying this and owning it and not necessarily keeping them upgraded, doing the things they necessarily need to do. This is a forced, all-in total cost of ownership where in year 10, you will be as up to date as you are in year 1 or pretty darn close to it. You know, and that simply is not the case. And we've seen the implications of that when we had to do estimated billings, when we had to do all these other things that, you know, when we talk about putting the best face forward for GRU, it's really hard to do that when you have an estimated billing problem during a time when there's a hurricane and it takes you 3 months to recover from that. with all the customer relations issues. So I hear your concerns, and I've expressed the same concerns, and was comfortable in the fact that this went through this competitive bidding process, and it went under the scrutiny of experts that we've brought in terms of consulting, and have, know every which way to look at this type of product.
It does look like there was a robust negotiating process, and I agree that the current system is definitely long in the tooth. So I just want to make sure I understood these numbers and what we were getting. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rockwell. Member Foltz.
I just had one question, just a logistical question. Bill, I thought I heard you a minute ago when you were reading through a spreadsheet say that that was part of the backup for this meeting. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
So what is that backup called? Because the only backup that I received, that I think that I received, is this 871 page.
Didn't Robin send us something today?
She did.
That was an addition that she said she didn't give it and it was like last minute?
That was the
Yeah, let me jump in here. I think we had kind of a snafu in our offices. I don't think we got it electronically on the agenda. I think it was sent out separately to each one of the
Right.
UAB members. That's what I understand.
So
Oh, and I
have-
apologize. I made the assumption that you all had that
I think
worksheet.
it came as an attachment in an email, I think.
the one that said presentation for item tonight, that has the PDF of the presentation that we were given, right?
That was sent today, and then we were previously sent the contract and scope of work, the 800-something page. Yes.
Okay, but the actual spreadsheet type data that Bill was referring to was not part of the backup, correct?
His personal spreadsheets that he's referring to tonight, no.
Okay. I thought I heard him say that that was part of the backup, and I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed that.
Yep.
But that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Member Jacobson, out there in the ether, out there on the Zoom, do you have any comments or questions?
I do, just a couple real quick. First, a quick question. So what is the annual update cost for this service?
So starting with year 3, it's about 1.89 million. In year 4, it's 1.9 million. There's a slight escalator in the hosted services through the term. At year 10, we're at 2.2 million. And most all those costs are capitalized. 379,000 of that is a non-capital expense.
Okay, I appreciate that. And just, I don't think you guys will disagree with me on this, that, it isn't a question of should we do this or not, and just keep going with what we have. That my understanding of our current billing solution is that it's amazing you guys have kept it going this long. It's not being patched. It's not, and when it crashes, it's going to be pretty disastrous. So it's only a question of what's the right solution. In my opinion, you guys have done a great job of coming up with a solution. I know it doesn't feel good to have, we didn't buy anything. We're renting software. At the end of 10 years, you don't have anything. But the reality is at the end of 10 years, if you build it yourself, you don't have anything either. It's so out of date and so behind and exactly where we don't want to be. So I'm all in favor of the solution. And I think you guys have done a great job.
Excellent points, Barry. Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair,
Yeah.
Teresa Sperling Woods has her hand raised.
Thank you. Go ahead, Teresa.
Thank you. So with this new system, from a commercial customer point of view, having multiple accounts and multiple meters, will this be able to send out an email to the customer saying a meter's been changed? Will it be able to give information and bills straight to the customer without a customer having to buy a file transfer will it be user-friendly for a commercial customer with hundreds of accounts?
It'll be much more flexible than we have right now, member Sperlingwood. We'll have much more ability. When I say an e-bill customer, it'll be e-everything. So they'll get notifications all electronically. We'll have the ability to send SMS notifications. And then as far as customers like the school board that has multiple accounts and a campus type setup, those will also be able to be aggregated much more easily than we can now. So,
I mean,
yes.
we're trying to track 400 or 500 meters between water and electric, and every time there's a change out, we won't know until we actually get a bill, look at it, and compare it to the bill before, or have a notice in the different dates for each meter.
Yeah.
And it is very tedious to try to keep up with, the changes, especially when you guys go through a meter change.
Yeah. So I don't know what that final product will look like from the end user standpoint, but I can tell you it'll be much more robust than we have now and much more intuitive. And if we couple that with an AMI offering as well, you'll have much more detailed data than you have right now.
Correct, but what will the billing be like for a commercial customer with more detailed data? Will we be hit with more costs? Because I hear everybody else trying to keep the rate impact down, but the commercial customers are already, is this going to add more cost to a commercial customer?
By itself, no, it's not going to just impact commercial customers. I mean, as Ed was referring to earlier, it's certainly going to have an impact. However, it's going to be across the entire system, not just commercial customers.
Not just a strategic plan, so once you get more data, you can add more layers of levels of higher costs for the commercial rates?
No, I think if you're looking at a product like we have for commercial customers that does the load profiling or whatnot, certainly that would come with an additional cost. But when you're just getting the data that we get into our billing system and being able to utilize it on the bill and visualize it on the bill, that's not going to be an added cost. So,
right, but if you're saying when you do the AMI and you get more data and you can do maybe more time of use billing or more peak billing, is that in the future plan for a commercial customer?
Different rate types is certainly in the picture, but those rate types, when customers go towards a time of use or a peak billing, it's going to be to their benefit. That would be the reason why they would go to that type of billing structure. Otherwise, they would just stick with the same billing structure. So being able to give more options to customers is certainly going to be an output of a new billing system.
Okay. And the other thing, talk about the customer relations issue with the multiple accounts. When this merger happens, when this data from one system to another happens, how will it, what is going to be in place so that the customer's bills don't go just crazy for the first couple months where that transfer is happening? Is there going to be an assurance that it's going to be a smooth and easy transfer?
Oh, it better be smooth and easy. It'll be testing, and more testing. So we've got very good team on this, and we have a great consultant on board with us in AAC who's done this multiple times. The vendor Vertex One has also done multiple implementations. So we're going to make sure we get it right because it needs to be as seamless as possible to our customers.
And the other question I have, will the historical data be lost or will it be captured and put into the new system?
We're not going to be putting all of our historical data into the new system. We still have to figure out how much we're going to be bringing over to the new system, but the other data will be archived. It'll just be a different system that we'd have to dig in to get that. So there's a fine line, there's a balancing line there because obviously the more data you bring into the new system, the more cost and the more time. So
Right, well, I remember when we went from the CICS to SAP and all, how tedious that was for everybody to move everything around, so.
Right,
I just want to make sure we have a better process.
absolutely.
I would add here that, you know, you mentioned a few things here that actually go into some of the other questions that people asked about the costs. And I mean, you know, the things that you're talking about, that Bill just mentioned about the testing costs dollars. And that's what's, you know, part of the implementation cost itself. This doesn't magically, you know, we don't magically take information that's in our system and apply it into the new the SaaS system. I mean, this stuff has to be mapped. It has, you know, the fields have to be, you know, matched so that the fields can transfer properly. And, you know, we have to test that information before it actually goes live. I mean, they use terms in here about, you know, doing this in a sandbox and being able to test different scenarios and all those types of things, which are there to protect the integrity of the data and the ability to bill forward or bill in the future in an appropriate way that doesn't, you know, isn't on the backs of customers where they start, you know, we have these bad bills that occur where they're calling and trying to get it fixed. You know, this is not what we plan on doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Member Sperling Wood. Do you have any more questions?
And the other thing was,
Hello?
Hello?
Have we lost Member Sperling Wood?
I think I have my connection back. Is it back?
Yes.
Hear you.
Okay. One other thing, for a commercial customer, will they be able to get like a monthly overview of all their accounts on one invoice and then have the billing behind that?
I think some of the questions you're asking, are, we will go through the process when we lay the, when the product starts to be implemented, if you will. Like Bill said to begin with this, we're looking at almost an off the shelf solution where we don't specifically customize it, but it's a best practices type of software solution. Part of the reason we haven't had flexibility in the system we have is that it was customized to begin with, and then we weren't able to update it and upgrade it and keep it in warranty, if you will. And we never, ever want to have that occur again. So,
right. Well, this is why I'm asking these questions, because it is very complicated. Even with having multiple 911 addresses at one site makes it necessary to have multiple accounts, even though it's considered one, let's just say one school, because there's multiple addresses for the meters. With 911, it makes it multiple sites and multiple accounts instead of all under one. And it is very complicated and cumbersome right now.
Member Sperling Wood and General Manager, may I suggest that it sounds like there are a number of great questions that perhaps Member Sperling Wood could sit down with Bill or send him a list of requests after the meeting to consider as part of the implementation process.
sure.
Be happy to.
Member Sperling Wood, do you have any more questions?
No, thank you. Thank you for the information.
Thank you. Robin, do you have any other members who would like to ask questions on Zoom?
Robin has stepped out of the office for a moment, but at this point in time, there is no other hands raised.
Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
I can't speak for Member Crow. He did send out an email with a number of questions. Mr. Shepard responded. I think that you've answered most of these, Mr. Shepherd, in your presentation tonight, but there are a few that were a bit short, and it would help me, and certainly if any other members have any requests to add, but it would help me if you could kind of elaborate on the ones where you said project team has addressed this during the workshops or as part of the ITM bid process. So let me be a little more specific. When Fletcher Crowe asked about the experience of the other Vertex customers with the quality of work of the proposed vendor and the technical features, was that part of the review process? Did you talk to other utilities? Have you reviewed their work with other customers, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so that was all part of the workshops, and I'll default to maybe one of the team members to answer that. George, do you want to take that? You're on mute.
Apologize. Yes, good evening. So as part of the ITM process, we had the evaluation and scoring of not only what they proposed, which in that proposal, we asked them to provide all their history of what implementations they've done, which utilities, how size and everything else, whether it's comparable to ours or not. In addition to that, we scored that. But in addition to that, we also did reference checks with multiple utilities of each one of these vendors to ensure that they had a good experience and what lessons learned, things that we need to consider as part of our negotiations. So yes, we did do both of those items. And then we also heavily rely on AAC Utility Partners, which is our consultant. I mean, they've done this only for utilities, for CIS projects for many years. And we relied on them to ensure that we asked the right questions. And if they've heard of different implementation strategies when things didn't go right. But we feel pretty comfortable that their history was presented properly. There's nothing that was hidden. They're very transparent, and we scored it accordingly.
Now, when you say AAC has done this for a number of years, has done what? What was their role specifically? They were managed the process of interviewing, or?
They provide the services through selection. So they'll come in and assist with the putting together either the RFP or the ITN. They help you develop your requirements. They help you with the process of scoring as far as how to set up, not necessarily, they don't score, they set up the matrix and the metrics that you need to do that. And then they walk you through the negotiation process. They help you with negotiating the contracts, the agreements, things you should ask for, things you shouldn't. And then they have the history of all the vendors that have provided proposals. They pretty much know all of them because not all, the majority of the projects that AAC does is assisting utilities with procuring a CIS system. Okay. It doesn't matter which one, it's just a process they go through. So the history they bring is understanding what vendors are out there, what their strengths and weaknesses are, what they'll tell you, and what they actually, how they perform. So they bring that to the table as well.
They're kind of holding your hand through the process. And
Yes,
my apologies, correct. I should have started this by asking you for your name and your role in this process.
I apologize, George Demopoulos. I was the project manager for this process.
Thank you, George. Again, following up on Fletcher's questions, he had two more. The bid price of the Vertex One solution relative to other vendors. I assume then Mr. Shepherd's response is all covered in fully transparent competitive ITM process. So what does that mean? I mean, you compared other bid prices, or AAC did that, or what?
Go ahead and take that too, George.
Okay, I'll take that one as well. That is correct. Every vendor provided their cost in essentially a 10-year total cost of ownership, so we could do apples to apples. And as they provided that, we put it in a matrix, and then the core team on the project evaluated it. So we did not, it turns out, luckily for us, that the number one selection we had as far as the solution happened to be the least expensive of the vendors. So Vertex One was not only the best solution, but is the least expensive out of all of them. So if that's what he was asking.
That appears to be, yes. There's a number of items here. I think he just wanted to get them on the record so that you would know that we've discussed, that the public would know that we discussed them. And the final one of those was any conflict of interest that would exist in the selection. Again, I assume that would be vetted through AAC or through you.
Yes, correct. We don't, even though this is an SAP solution, we don't know Vertex One from Adam. They've never been a part of any of our projects, so we would not have any conflict of interest. We don't know anybody on their team, and AAC is, and they've, luckily for us, they've just finished an implementation down South Florida. So we called them up and they said, yes, they know all the Florida public records request policies and that sort of thing, how to do business in Florida. So we feel, even though we don't know any of them, we feel pretty comfortable. They understand a utility, they understand one as complex as ours, because that's hard to find nowadays, because we do not only gas, water, electric, we also do some billing for the city. So that's very hard to find in a solution. So that's kind of why many companies go with either like an SAP solution or something big like Oracle. So the complexity of our organization is to the point where you're almost forced to go with something that can handle that. So you can't just do QuickBooks because it just does one little thing. So we feel pretty comfortable that there's no conflict of interest. We don't know any of their team members, any of their C-suite or anything else. Okay. And they've never done a project with us before either.
Thank you. Do any other members here have any follow-up on Fletcher's questions? No? Okay, thank you. I have a small series of questions myself, and they're probably going to be mostly legal in nature, given that I'm an attorney. But what I look at for these contracts, particularly when I'm looking at an 800-page contract, is lots of times we as a board are going to have to defer to staff. This is a leap of faith, because obviously we can't go through and study every detail. I assume that everything you have in here is what you need, and for Mr. Shepard's presentation, it looks like you've really covered the bases well. What I always focus in on as an attorney is, what do you do when things go south? How do you get out of a bad deal? And that's something which you don't know now it's a bad deal, but may become one years later, and it's something that we're all very sensitive to, given the history of GRU here. And we just want to make sure that we're thinking about these things. You have termination for cause by client under 28.2, and that's pretty straightforward. If Vertex screws up, then we can end the contract. There's termination for convenience, and this one's a little bit of a puzzler for me. I realize that we really need something that, if we want to get out, if we don't like what's going on, but I'm okay with everything except for 28.3.2, the termination fees. And if somebody could explain to me, I'm looking at termination for convenience. It can only be done after 5 years. At that point, the vendor has recovered all their cost. They're going to get a year of service order fees during the transition period in the 6th or 7th, whatever year. It just seems like those termination fees are excessively punitive. And if I were doing this contract, I'd like to do it just stripping that whole subsection out, the 28.3.2. But why those high fees? They're going to be double dipping for a year or two there.
Correct. I don't know if our legal team is on. If not, I could answer. Lisa, Did you want to answer that, or you want me to answer that?
I'm here, and it was a hotly negotiated discussion. The termination for convenience and the fees that are associated with that are, GRU just doesn't want to. It's not that Vertex One has breached the agreement. It is just GRU doesn't want to do business with Vertex One. There's a additional termination clause in 28.4, which is a termination without fee, and it references back up to section 13.5, and it's a situation where perhaps Vertex One has attempted and reattempted to institute a part of the project and it's just not going well. And eventually GRU is going to be able to say, look, this is not really a breach, but we're going to terminate this because of 13.5 and it will be without a fee. So in other words, we won't be walking away just for convenience. We're walking away because they haven't necessarily breached the agreement, but they're just not doing a good job. And George can add to that if you want to on the section 13.5 and how that operates if you want.
Well, that is ideal. I mean, I read through that and I saw 13.5, and that's a great process. That makes sense to me because you go through and you say if they're not providing the services in a manner that meets our needs, then we get to terminate without a fee. That's great. But what worries me is that we're going to say, we, GRU, this falls under 28.4. And their attorney is going to immediately come back, oh no, it's a convenience matter. And then we have to fight it out in courts. I wish that those fees, those termination fees, give the vendor an incentive to want to call it a 28.3 breach, a 28.3 termination instead of 28.4. And maybe you just can't, maybe you have to swallow that poison pill, but that really is what it comes down to me. It's that clause is in there strictly as a poison pill to keep us in the game for 10 years and not terminate.
I mean, I can speak from a general term. I mean, our business is a utility. Our business is to provide services to our customers. I don't want to be in this business of going through another implementation process, especially in 5 or 6 years. For us to terminate out of convenience, I think is a very, very minute possibility. Now, if it's something that is performance based and they're not, delivering, then, that's something that we're going to have to look at. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, once we go live with this thing, I am going to be very, very happy that I can live with this or that I can use this for 10 years and know that it's going to be, up to date in the current version. And I can really focus on my customers as opposed to fixing the system that I'm trying to use to bill my customers.
And I agree wholeheartedly. That's where that would be a 28.4 termination. It's just, I'm struggling with this 28.3.2.
So I could add a little bit more. During the negotiations, we, as Bill mentioned, and Lisa, we intend to maintain 10 years because this is the product we believe we need. It can satisfy all of our requirements. The only thing we'd be concerned about is if the vendor couldn't meet our service level agreements. So on a monthly basis, we evaluate and we receive the service level agreements, the time, uptime and everything else. And if they're subpar based on what we've already set in that agreement, then we start discussing the remedies. And if they can't provide us the remedies to get them to perform where we expect them to be, that's automatically triggers that clause. And so therefore you can get out of the contract. Obviously they're going to try their best to meet and exceed those, but the convenience to me was their point when they kept discussing it is, to your point, exactly that. They want to make it somewhat painful for us to just walk away one day because today we don't like SAP, tomorrow we like Oracle, we're just going to go through this process of doing another implementation. They want to try and keep our business for 10 years, and that is the goal. But we said, well, that's great, but what if you're not performing well? So we went through the painstaking process of building that 13.5 in order to ensure that the performance that we put in there, that they're responsible for providing us reporting and evaluation on a monthly basis, and we provide feedback to ensure they get back on track. So that's kind of why that's there. So they definitely didn't want to take it out because they don't want us to just walk away just because we don't feel like having that product anymore. But at the same token, we felt that having a performance-based review process where you have no penalties to walk out, we were able to negotiate on that, and they said, yes, we agree. So we feel that we're covered, and we did have external legal counsel review, and they said that that's a very good way to go about it, especially if you don't expect to be in a search mode of another, what's the next latest and greatest product in 6-7 years.
Thank you. Member Miles, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I was devil's advocate a little piece, but if I'm Vertex One, I'm trying to implement the same thing. Because a lot of times when you do these services and you say, hey, we got this contract for 10 years, and the person say, you know what, I'm gonna walk away, they project those costs and they project that income. And I would want that little piece of security, so I don't see it as a horrible thing. I see it as a way to make sure that this is what we wanna do. And so I'd be more concerned if we're entering, if we've shopped around, if we did all of our homework on different systems, if this is what we're going with, then we make that 10-year commitment. We don't need that prenup. That kind of reminds me of a prenup. We're in it to win it. And so we don't, yeah. I kind of agree with that clause. And then for Vertex One, we shouldn't be wishy-washy when we're doing business. If we're doing a 10-year contract, we need to stay in that 10-year contract, or we should assume some type of cost. It's kind of like returning something that you've had on layaway. Sometimes there's a convenience fee that you have to pay that comes off of there. So I definitely understand and respect that on behalf of the company with that. I would put it in if I were Vertex One.
Thank you, Member Miles. Robin, do we have any other members who want to speak from the Zoom world?
I don't see any hands up.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir, we do not have any public comments at this time.
Thank you. We've had staff's presentation. We've had members' comments. If anybody was willing to make a motion on this matter, I would be willing to entertain it now. I'll speak at once.
I'd like to make a
Mr.
motion
Chair.
to move forward with the staff's recommendation.
Member Jacobson has moved staff's recommendation as it is in the agenda to authorize the general manager or his designee to execute a software as a service agreement with Vertex One for a term of 10 years and other agreements as required in general agreement with the draft SAAS dated November 5th, 2020, subject to approval by the city attorney as to form and legality. Do I have a second? There's a second part of this. Authorize the general manager or his designee to execute a new order form with SAP for new licenses to support the Vertex One agreement. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. Member Miles is seconded. Member Rockwell moved. Any further discussion? I'm sorry, Member Jacobson moved. Thank you. Glad you're keeping me straight. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. And it passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thanks.
Under general member comments, are there any member comments here in the room? Mr. Foltz, Member Foltz.
So I had just two things that I wanted to talk about tonight. One is an item I would like to have for further discussion on this board if possible, and that is an evaluation of GRU's COVID response. Basically, you know, we're 9 months into this now, and basically what lessons have been learned, what would we do differently if, say, the numbers were starting to look really bad again. So I think that would be a discussion that if other folks would support, that I would be interested in having at a future meeting. And then related to that, so my new member orientation and Member Crow's new member orientation to this board were cut short dramatically due to COVID. And so I'm just wanting to kind of check in to see at what point we foresee, and I don't want to speak for Member Crow, but I know for myself, I have a lot to learn and I would like to move forward with my orientation as soon as it's deemed safe to do so. Thank you.
Ed, do you want to respond to Member Foltz's questions?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't mind putting the COVID response on an upcoming UAB agenda. I don't know that we fully baked lessons learned in COVID yet, in that it's still ongoing. We are kind of adjusting every week to the new complications of it. But we certainly could put something together that would give you a little insight into, some of the lessons we've learned so far, the implications, providing service from, a public utility, how you deal with the, the receivable issue, how you deal with the customers, and how you keep fully staffed to provide the essentials of life. So, we can certainly do that. In terms of getting your orientation, I'm not, I don't know where you stand on that, Robin. You're probably more connected in the training sector through the organization as to when the folks would be wanting to go through tours. Where most of that stuff occurs is in tours. Did you want to add anything to that?
I can certainly check with staff. I know that we can do most of the administrative areas virtually, and I can certainly check with the operational areas about plant tours to get an idea of whether that would be safe at this time or not. But certainly I can get to work on scheduling virtual orientations with the administrative areas.
Thank you. Member Miles, Member Rockwell, either of you have any comments? Member Jacobson?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. We thank you to Robin and the staff for sending out the resolution today on the hybrid meeting rules. I noted in those meeting rules that we are allowed to meet virtually, no physical presence required for workshops. I'm going to recommend to the board that we do so. I don't think any formal actions required, just to tell staff that's how we would like to proceed with our workshops. I will note that I greatly appreciate the members who are here tonight showing up, and state for the record that if other UAB members might want to participate in person in the future, it might be nice if we could kind of rotate out the duties of showing up, unless everybody here really enjoys being here. But just for the record, if the members, particularly ones who weren't able to attend tonight, if they could consider letting Robin know early from future meetings, so that we could kind of swap out back and forth as to who attends. And that assumes that all of us would be able to submit the affidavit. And I have no other further questions. I did send a note to Ed and to Robin today. They have some workshops apparently on the new solar project, and they had one last night we missed out on. So I'm hoping that in the future we have advance notice of that so we can kind of participate in them and listen. And I thank them for agreeing to do so. If there's no further comments, the next meeting date is December 10th. We don't have any workshops scheduled between now and then, do we, Robin?
There is one next week. You have a standing one normally on the last Tuesday of the month, but I wanted to ask you, since it is Thanksgiving week, if you wanted to cancel that.
What's the census of the board? I see lots of heads shaking up there saying cancel.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Unless Barry disagrees, I don't see any comments from him, so I'm guessing he goes along with that idea. Oh, a thumbs up, very good. Thank you all for your time. This is a kind of a weird process, a mixed physical and Zoom, but I thank staff, I thank members for being here, and I adjourn the meeting.